Okay, we're here on the 30th of November 2024 with Vince Green in the Mac Theatre. And Vince, what was on today?
Today, the Rainbow Project exhibition relates to the AIDS Quilt project, which I think started in New York back in the mid 80s and 90s. But it turns out there was also, I think it was called Mark, so he was telling me, this fellow outside in the British in Belfast. So they started memorialising people who didn't survive having HIV back in the day, because a lot of them are from the 90s, I think, or something, with their names on. So there's several quilts in there for people back in the 90s who their friends or family created a quilt to memorialise them. Apparently these were on display in the LGBT centre in Dublin, and then it changed and they were just packed away, and they've been kind of since the 90s. They've just been in some guy's house. I think he rescued them and been keeping them safe, which happens all the time, I think. But luckily somebody knew somebody who knew somebody, and they said, yeah, the family still have these. So they have all these quilts, and they actually have a couple of quilts where people who last saw it in the 90s kind of wrote things themselves about people they knew, or kind of a social history, I suppose. Right. And people say today. So you have quilts, you have comics back in the 90s. The Rainbow Project also did a musical called, it was based on a musical in New York, LGs for Angels, Punks, and Raging Queens. And there's a whole musical, and the Rainbow Project redid that. We should do it back in 2010, and it's a CD, and there's all these stories from that. A monologue from someone who died, and then someone else who's a friend or a relative singing in kind of response to their monologue of the death. And some of it was a nurse who got HIV or blood transfusion, or it wasn't just gay men who got it. So it's a really beautiful event, and there's a lot of people there. I just bumped into a woman who helped start the AIDS helpline, the very first one in Derry and Belfast. I think she said the end of the 70s and into the 80s. So it's remarkable the way it's been put together. It's fantastic.
Brilliant. We're going to have a chat with her now. Some important history in that room. That's brilliant. Vince, thank you. How did you feel getting in there? Was it a bit emotional, or?
In a way, not going to, because I know I have friends who have HIV. I don't know anyone who was lost elected, to be honest, so far. I was involved in the Rainbow Project for a long time, and it was founded about men's sexual health. It's been part of I've been involved in that area for quite some years, but it was very poignant. There's names on the floor there. There's one from Tony, and it says Port Belfast, 1945 to 1991. And it's this beautiful theatrical piece. It turns out his friends were theatrical, and that's why it's so good. But it just, there's somebody's life right there. And so I think seeing those, and there's one that says to mommy, there's another one to mommy. It turns out there's two kids did this quote for her. And they've actually now found out that it still exists, and as far as I think, so they're actually going to get it back because they're really to have it now that they're growing up and they've got this road. So it's emotional, I think, when you look at it and you realise these are real people back in the 90s who, and the stories around are very much dying on their own, or maybe not getting the medical support and care or even love in the bigger society that we get that into. Particularly when in the UK they're talking about assisted dying and stuff. It's kind of that culture of death, I suppose. Some of them have terrible endings in life, but in mind they will remember and they loved and they have lives, and to see it still there is fantastic. It is. And I think for some people they just recalling what was. We're lucky as men, particularly in the times we live, the medicines that we live in, the preventive medicine stuff. Just realising those people who are alive today, they have the options we have today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Vince. We're going to take the wheel and put that up.
You have a great time.
I'm here with Anne, and Anne, how did you become involved with the quilt?
Well, many years ago, we decided that in Northern Ireland there was no helpline, there was nobody talking about AIDS. This was in the late 70s. Some of our friends had been involved, so we became involved in setting up a helpline so that we could talk to people. Eventually, we used to got a support centre for people to drop in, have a cup of tea, share a bit of time. The problem was people were dying every day, every week. There was somebody dying of AIDS in Belfast, and they were dying with no difference. It makes me cry even today to remember how horrible it was. And we dehumanised a whole group of people because they had a virus. And I was doing human rights, and I worked for the Quakers, and it was just horrible, horrible. So we set up a helpline, and as I say, people come in, then we had a drop-in centre for a lot of people coming in, and we were losing people all the time. And my friend, he heard about this project that was called the Names Project in America, and Will decided that he would start one in Belfast. So we started a project, he started this project in Belfast, and I actually wasn't involved with the project. I was still just doing the phones on a Tuesday night, and people were coming in. You got to know everybody. It was wonderful today to meet somebody that had come and done a quilt and could remember it all. And so they got something that they couldn't get from society, because they couldn't tell their neighbours that their dad or their mum or their lover or their best friend had died with AIDS. Because to do that meant that you got put out of their house, that you got paint thrown at your house in some areas. Or if you lived in other areas, you just pretended that your son died from a brain tumour and not from AIDS. So I know things changed greatly because we had another massive virus there, where everybody that had the virus was treated with dignity. But we weren't treated, we never treated anybody with dignity. People in the hospital, people in the hospital weren't treated with dignity. I went with many people to visit people who were lying in the hospital on their last breath, and they were not treated properly, and we weren't treated properly. It was horrible, an absolute horrible time. So that quilt in there gives people a chance to have dignity with their relatives.
We're here at the Map Theatre. It's the 30th of November, and Leo Lardie from the Rainbow Project. Leo, what's going on today?
So today, in celebration of World AIDS Day, which is tomorrow, we are having an exhibition of some recently rediscovered AIDS memorial quilts. So these were quilts made in memory and celebration of lives lost to AIDS-related complications.
Many people visiting?
We've probably had about 50 so far, and about 90 people have reserved tickets online. This is a free event for the public, so we're hoping more people will show up this afternoon.
So in a minute we're just going to take a look at some of the quilts, some of the work and some part of the stories behind them.
Yes, so we're actually really lucky. We managed to reunite one of the quilt makers with their mother's quilt. So the quilt, which is dedicated to Mum, I found out that is from Ruth Lavin. That was made by Michelle Lavin. And basically, she hadn't seen it in over 3 decades and thought it was long lost, and now we've reunited it, so that's beautiful. But a lot of the quilts, unfortunately, don't have a lot of information on, because they were essentially found in a storeroom, so we've got very little information on them. But that doesn't mean that we can't remember these people, remember what the HIV and AIDS epidemic did to our community, not just the LGBTQ people, but their friends, their families, and such people who are affected by it as well. So a lot of importance, and just having the ability to chat about still what is quite a taboo subject with people that know.
Absolutely, and if you're watching and you see something and you know about it, get in touch, because Heritage Project is always putting out calls for information, so definitely do it.
The names quilt memorial is quite moving because all the patches in the patchwork quilt there are for a person and their friends and families who felt it necessary to put that there. So these are people's lives. It's not just fabric, it's people's lives behind the fabric.
No, I think it's really significant. This is a moment today because the Northern Ireland AIDS quilt, I don't think a lot of people knew or remembered that it existed. So there's some incredible stories coming out in terms of people being connected with panels that they actually made for their relatives. And I heard some stories, personal stories of people who knew people who were on the panels. So it's very powerful emotionally, but also I think it's a very important piece of our history because the whole AIDS disease was saturated in prejudice, and it kind of still is in a way. So things have moved on a lot with medication, U equals U, and transmissibles and everything, but as a resource and the struggles that people faced and how people were sort of dehumanized through this, I think it's very, very important and a very, very powerful memorial to a lot of people whose lives were cut short.